All right. So, James, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, um, just like a few introductory
Okay.
sentences.
Yeah, where do I start? Well, first I'll start with I graduated from NKU back in 2016. I loved my experience there. It was so great. Kelly, Jessica, they were all amazing. Then I went to Fresno State to do my MFA. So I just hopped a plane, flew across the country.
Very cool.
Um, and the MFA experience is a wonderfully challenging experience, I would say. I learned a lot. I learned a whole lot, and I also learned that I was not as great of a writer as I thought I was going into it. So you learn a lot about yourself in the MFA, and I think you learn a lot about writing as well, whichever genre you decide to go into. So that was a wonderful experience, and now I'm back here for the foreseeable future. I'm teaching at Cincinnati State and UC Claremont.
Um,
So that's been my life for the past couple years, I say.
Very cool. So, do you remember the moment that you knew you wanted to be a writer? Like, what inspired you to write?
So it's funny. I started out writing very young. I was really interested in writing and sketching in little comic books and writing stories surrounding my characters. So I think that's what started it. And then, we did all the elementary school, like, oh, write a story about this and write a story about that. But then I don't, I think my next goal in life was to be a chef, a professional chef.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I wanted to go to school for. And then I went to business school in college. I started in business and I was like, this is not for me. So then I started pondering and thinking about my loves and what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and it kind of circled back to writing. So I would say the first time I started to think about it was when was doing those initial like little comic sketches and writing
Mm,
stories about my characters. So
very cool. Um, how would you describe your style?
that is a good question. um I would say evolving. I
Okay.
don't think I lean into one style too heavily. Like right now, my my style is really imaginative. It's really based in nature and spirituality and ghosts and things like that. But I, I find myself writing for what the moment calls for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So whatever I'm feeling in a particular moment, that's kind of what I lean to.
Mhm.
So I think the best way to describe it is evolving.
Okay. Yeah, totally. I love that. And what was your favorite part and your least favorite part about the publishing journey?
Well, my least favorite part is the waiting. It's not even the rejections because
Mm,
obviously those will come.
mhm.
But the waiting. I once had a piece that was in circulation for a full year before I heard anything back.
Oh,
So it's a terrifying process. You kind of just send your work out into the ether and hope to hear back sooner rather than later.
mhm.
Um, and I would say getting accepted is my favorite part, but I think more than that is getting accepted or rejected with a purpose. Like when a publication can tell you exactly why they accepted your piece or exactly why they were thinking about accepting your piece, I think those make for some of the best moments when you actually connect with a publication and you're like, okay, this is the place I want to keep submitting to.
Right. Yeah, it's that feedback, that constructive
Hmm.
criticism and praise. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely, definitely.
Um, so I know you've touched
Take
on
a
this a
swig of
little
water real
bit,
quick.
but where do you draw your inspiration from?
Ooh, that's another really good question. Um, it comes from various places. I would say My family is a huge inspiration for me, particularly my grandparents. I love writing about them. They always sneak their way into my work. Nature, I've been really interested in trees and air and water. Those images have been sneaking their way into my work lately. Um, Also Black people. I love writing about Black people. I love being Black, and I feel like it's such a necessary time right now to show not only Black stories and Black pain, but also Black joy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that side of us isn't explored enough in media. So I really want to show that in my writing as well.
Very cool. Yeah. I love that. Who is your favorite author and why?
This is the question that tripped me up the most. So I don't know if I have a strict favorite author, because there's so many people making wonderful books currently. I think if I had to choose a favorite right now, it would be Hanif Abdurraqib, who just wrote, he's a CNF writer and a poet. He just came out with a book called A Fortune for Your Disaster, which is a wonderful book. And he also wrote a book about a tribe called Quest, the music group, called Go Ahead Into the Rain. I really hope I'm remembering that correctly. Um, but some other authors that are really phenomenal and that I'm reading right now are Anthony Cody. He's up for a National Book Award in poetry. He had a wonderful book called Borderland Apocrypha. Also Kawa Akbar. He has a new book coming out, and Paige Lewis, they have a new book coming out soon. But there's tons of authors that I love and
Wow,
that I go
yeah.
back and forth
A
between.
very
So
diverse range there. Yeah.
I try.
It's important, I think, to keep up with what other people are writing, especially
Mm-hmm.
writing is such a solitary endeavor,
Yeah, yeah.
keep those
I
connections.
the best writing comes from reading, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I agree 100%. You might read something that inspires you to write a reaction piece or something.
mm-hmm.
Totally.
Definitely.
So if you were a tour guide, what would you like a visitor to see, and what impressions would you like them to take away when they leave your world?
So I've thought a lot about my answer to this question, because it's a wonderful question. It's a wonderfully phrased question, and I it's really hard for me to come up with an answer. But I think if I I have to leave them with something, I want them to see the love I have for people, the love I have for the planet, the love I have for Black people specifically, um, just love in general. And I hope if they can pull anything from my work, it's that.
Oh, well, I love that.
Thank you.
um, what, in your opinion, are the most important elements of good writing?
The most important elements. So there's an easy answer and there's a more difficult answer. I think the easy answer is a knowledge of the fundamentals and a willingness to break the fundamentals. And by that, I mean like knowing the rules of poetry and knowing when to take those rules and do something cool or something unexpected with them. And I think the hard answer, the more difficult answer to that question would be knowing yourself and what you want to show about yourself in your writing, which is a very hard place to get. I still struggle with that in my poetry. Just
Sort of like how much of yourself to.
yeah, definitely how much of yourself to give, how honest you want to be with yourself. It,
Mhm.
it's a very
Mhm.
it's a humbling process, and it's a scary process to kind of
Mhm.
work within your own writing and ask yourself, how much of myself do I want to give to my readers? So
Right.
I think those would be my answers to
Yeah,
that.
that was a very good response. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. So I'm on my last question now. What advice would you give to a new writer or someone just starting out?
What advice? I would say, don't sell yourself short. Uh, Explore everything that you want to explore in your writing. Don't let anybody tell you that something is that something shouldn't be in your particular writing. Explore every avenue that you would like to explore within your genre. Um, and try out different and unsurprising and surprising unexpected things. So by that I mean, like, if you've never written in form poetry, try writing in form poetry. Maybe you'll get some new inspiration that way. Or
Mhm.
um, just show different aspects of yourself in your writing.
Mhm. Right, because if you never try it out,
Mm-hmm.
you definitely won't succeed at it.
Very true.
Well, thank you so much, James.
Thank you.
You have some very insightful answers, and I'm very much looking forward to following your career as it
Thank
blossoms.
you. Thank you so much. This was such a joy. Such a joy. Thank you.
All right, we are almost done recording. You're at house.